Hello, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to discuss about design considerations for controls and displays. In previous videos we talked about definition, classification of controls and displays, and we also talked about characteristics of good control and characteristics of good displays. Now, considering all this, we need to design controls and displays. So first design consideration is to minimize time required to use a control or a display. Now when we talk about time required to operate a control is about a combination or the sum of various activities to operate that control. So active activities will be broken up into to find and recognize a control, to access that control, and to operate that control. So let's say if you want to operate the volume button, so you need to find the volume button, you need to access that volume button with your hand and operate that volume button to control the volume in your vehicle. So that is what the total time required. So that should be as minimum as possible. Same thing goes with the display. The only thing is the display process will be the sum of time taken for finding the display, reading the display, and interpreting the information presented by the display. Okay, so there is a slight difference between these two, but the design consideration is such that it should take minimum time to use that control and display. That is the first design consideration. The second design consideration is to minimize the physical and mental workload of a driver. So idea is people inherently seek to conserve their energy and reduce the effort. So if you can uh, or design control or display such that something like a power window or power mirrors or automatic transmission, that will definitely help people to reduce physical and mental overload. So for this, you can take an example of power window and the conventional window. So if you want to use that window operation, for the conventional window, you have to rotate your hand with a handle multiple times. That takes a lot of physical and mental workload for the driver. Instead of that, if you can just put the simple button switch for the power window to get window your up and down, so that will be helpful to reduce efforts for the driver. So something like that, if you can design or the consider these type of things, it will be helpful for the controls and displays. The third one is again very important, that is prioritize and display only limited amount of information. So this is more towards the for the display consideration. Uh, the information on the display should be limited such that it will not hamper your primary driving task, especially when you are stuck in the traffic and you need a critical attention on the road, and driver is busy in looking at a road, and it should not have the large information to process or search on the display. Okay, to avoid unnecessary, so you have to avoid unnecessary information, and the information which you want to be send to the driver, it should be presented in least the simple possible way. Okay, the fourth one is to the location of visual displays and controls. The visual display should be close to the driver, as far as normal to the eye line side, so that lesser eye movements will be required, and the peripheral direction to visual for the visual cues is not compromised. So primary task of a driver to keep a vehicle on lane and keep it driving for the specific speed. So that should not get affected in locating the visual display or reading information from the display. So locations, it should be so ergonomically it should be within about 30 to 35 degree from the normal eye line, which we have seen in the location of the controls and displays. The driver's ability to make quick eye movements without the use of large head movements, that is the key term which we are looking at. So you can visualize somewhere around 30 to 35 degree around your eye line. So if you can place control within that region, you don't have to do any head movements. So that is important. So higher retinal sensitivity or higher information retransmission speed for the visuals within the closer to the fore. So all these things we need to consider while designing controls and displays. The fifth one is usability of a product is dependent on number of applicable ergonomic guidelines. So there are specific guidelines which are provided for controls and displays. The usability of your controls and displays will be dependent on how many ergonomic guidelines your product meets. So violation of one or more key guidelines can make that product very difficult to use. And as we know, if it is very difficult to use, the driver or the people will be reluctant to use your specific control or display. Then coming to the sixth, so what people don't understand does not exist. So in simple words, if your control is very difficult to handle, it involves lot of step-by-step operations, then people will tend to not use that, and if the user does not understand or able to use, the user will discard that feature, or he will not choose that control or display to be set up into his or her vehicle. The seventh one, the hands-free may not be risk-free. So the well-designed voice displays or voice activation control that do not overburden the driver's working memory are generally superior to the visual or manual interfaces. But every time you don't have to think about hands-free because voice command activated controls or displays have their own advantages and their own limitations. So every time the hands-free is may not be a risk-free. Then eighth one is the seamless integration of the available features is important with potentially greater number of new features to be offered in the product. The integration of various features should be based on the concept such that coordination, compatibility, prioritization, consistency, etc. etc. So these are the 8 general guidelines which are provided for the design considerations for controls and displays. That's all about this video. If you like this content, do subscribe my channel and keep following this playlist for more videos on controls and displays. Thank you for joining.